There are moments in the NBA when old stories come back with the force of breaking news. Moments when a player, years removed from a franchise, suddenly drops a statement so bold, so emotionally charged that it shakes fans, reporters, and analysts all over the league. And tonight, we have exactly that kind of moment. Because Lonzo Ball, yes, that Lonzo Ball, the former number 2 pick, the UCLA sensation, the player who once carried the hopes of an entire fan base, has just delivered one of the most surprising and provocative statements ever made about the Los Angeles Lakers blockbuster trade for Anthony Davis. A trade that changed the NBA landscape. A trade that delivered a championship. A trade that reshaped careers, franchises, legacies. But according to Lonzo, that trade should have gone very differently. What you're about to read is not just another update. This is a deep dive into a player's raw honesty, the emotional weight of what could have been, and the complex paths that brought Lonzo, Davis, and the Lakers to this exact moment in NBA history. Let's break everything down, step by step, angle by angle, with the emotion, intensity, and depth you deserve. Lonzo Ball's shocking statement about the Anthony Davis trade more than half a decade has passed since the Los Angeles Lakers executed the trade that shook the league. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and 3 first-round picks shipped to the New Orleans Pelicans in exchange for superstar big man Anthony Davis. The move instantly elevated Los Angeles into championship contention, and in their first season with Davis, the Lakers brought home the 2020 NBA title. You'd think that story would be simple. A trade that worked. A path validated by a ring. End of discussion, right? Not for Lonzo Ball. Now, 28 years old and playing for Cleveland Cavaliers, the former Laker is finally opening up about how he truly feels about the deal that sent him away from the franchise that once believed he could be its future. And Lonzo didn't hold back, not even a little. During a new episode of the Ball and the Family podcast, featuring Lonzo and his brother Galo Ball, Lonzo made a bold, emotional, and surprisingly confident statement. This might be an unpopular opinion, but honestly, I think I could have played with D'Angelo Russell. I think they should have kept the picks and just seen how things would play out. But at the end of the day, they got the ring. A sentence filled with honesty. A sentence loaded with regret. A sentence that reopens one of the most impactful chapters in Lakers history. To understand the gravity of Lonzo's words, we need to go deeper into the trade, into his journey, into the injuries, the what-ifs, and emotional complexity behind a player who still believes he could have been part of something bigger in Los Angeles. The trade that shifted the NBA, let's rewind to 2019. The Lakers were in chaos. LeBron James had just completed his first season in Los Angeles. A season plagued by injuries, failed rotations, and a roster that didn't mesh. Rumors swirled for months that the Lakers were willing to part with nearly every young player they had in order to bring in Anthony Davis. And eventually, that's exactly what happened. The package. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, 3 first-round picks in return. Anthony Davis, the superstar big man averaging 28-plus points per game, widely considered one of the top 5 players in the world. From the perspective of Lakers management, it was a straightforward decision. Trade potential for certainty. Trade tomorrow for today. Trade young talent for a proven franchise cornerstone. And in terms of winning, the decision paid off immediately. But that doesn't mean the emotional toll on the players involved wasn't real, especially Lonzo. Because for him, this wasn't just a transaction. It was the sudden end of a dream. Lonzo Ball. The hope of a new Lakers ERA. When Lonzo Ball was drafted in 2017, the expectations were sky high. Magic Johnson himself declared, "Your jersey will be hanging up in the rafters someday." Lonzo was supposed to be the engine of the post-Kobe era Lakers. A visionary passer, a floor general unlike anyone since Jason Kidd, a player who made teammates better just by being on the floor. He was young, he was beloved, and the city embraced him with open arms. But the NBA doesn't wait for anyone, not even someone with Lonzo's talent. His first 2 seasons with the Lakers were marked by flashes of brilliance and stretches of inconsistency, injuries, and roster instability. Meanwhile, the franchise grew increasingly impatient. The hunger to win now overpowered the intrigue of what Lonzo could eventually become. And then came the trade. For Lonzo, it was painful, but understandable. For the Lakers, it was a turning point. For the NBA, It was a seismic shift. But Lonzo's recent statement shows that even after all these years, he still believes there was another path forward, a path where he could have stayed, competed, grown, and perhaps even thrived alongside the Lakers' evolving roster. Could Lonzo have worked alongside D'Angelo Russell? The most surprising part of Lonzo's statement is his belief that he and D'Angelo Russell could have coexisted in the same backcourt. At first glance, it sounds improbable. Two ball-dominant guards, two players who thrive controlling the tempo, two contrasting offensive styles. But Lonzo insists it could have worked. And honestly, when we analyze their games deeply, he might not be wrong. Lonzo is a pass-first orchestrator. Russell is a scoring-first shot creator. Together, they might have formed an unexpectedly balanced backcourt, one that combines scoring, spacing, playmaking, and defensive length. Here's what the pairing could have offered. Lonzo's elite transition play plus Russell's half-court shot creation, perfect for a LeBron-led offense. Lonzo's defensive IQ plus Russell's offensive versatility, a combination the Lakers never truly explored. Lonzo's unselfish play plus Russell's spacing. Lonzo never needed the ball to be effective. And maybe that's exactly why he believes it could have worked. This is more than basketball take. This is a window into Lonzo's mind, a glimpse into a world where he still sees potential in the version of himself that never got to grow in Los Angeles. Lonzo Ball career in New Orleans. Proof he can improve. One thing is clear. Lonzo didn't just talk, he backed it up. In his second season with the New Orleans Pelicans, Lonzo averaged 14.6 points, 4.8 rebounds, 7.0 assists, improved shooting efficiency, stronger defensive presence, higher leadership responsibility. This was the version of Lonzo Lakers fans never got to fully experience. This was the player he always believed he could be. This was the style that could have thrived in LA if the team had chosen development over immediate contention. But as Lonzo himself acknowledged, at the end of the day, they got the ring. A sentence full of pride, a sentence full of pain, a sentence that closes a door while opening a wound. The injuries that altered everything. Here's where Lonzo's argument becomes complicated. Because no matter how strong his belief is, his body simply hasn't cooperated. Since suffering a meniscus tear in January 2022, Lonzo has struggled to stay on the court. He missed the entire 2022-23 and 2023-24 seasons, becoming one of the league's biggest injury tragedies. And even now, despite return action, he is nowhere near the player he once was. In Cleveland this season, Lonzo is averaging 6.1 points, 4.3 rebounds, 5.2 assists, 24 minutes per game, respectable numbers for a player rebuilding his career, but far from the all-star potential many once saw. And that raises the biggest question. Would the Lakers really have reached the finals in 2020 with Lonzo instead of Davis? Objectively, probably not. But emotionally, Lonzo feels he could have been part of something bigger. And that belief matters. It reveals his heart, his confidence, his identity as a competitor. Davis exit from the Lakers. An unexpected twist adding even more complexity to Lonzo's comments is the fact that Anthony Davis himself is no longer on the Lakers. In one of the most shocking trades in NBA history, Davis was moved last season as part of the blockbuster deal that brought 26-year-old Luka Dončić to Los Angeles, a trade that reshaped the future of the franchise. And that brings everything full circle. Lonzo, gone. Davis, gone. Ingram, gone. Hart, gone. The Lakers sacrificed everything for Davis, then eventually sacrificed Davis for a new superstar. In many ways, the era Lonzo refers to no longer exists, but the emotional weight of what could have been still lingers. The Luka Dončić era, the true end of the Davis, Lonzo story. Now the Lakers have Luka Dončić, a generational player, only 26 years old, capable of carrying the franchise well into the post-LeBron era. The move signals a long-term vision, a desire to build a team around a superstar who can dominate the league for the next decade. From a franchise perspective, it makes perfect sense. But from Lonzo's perspective, this is the final confirmation that his era in Los Angeles is nothing but a memory, a path that branched off and never merged again. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay ahead of every major story shaking the NBA, make sure to hit that like button, Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a single update. Your support keeps this community growing and brings even more exclusive content your way.